Hey there, my people, and welcome. For your review, I have an old favorite of mine, the movie titled The Andromeda Strain. I was just a teenager when I first saw this movie, and needless to say, it helped to fuel the love for science fiction I have today. I love movies like this that challenges you with, what now? What do we do to fix this? How do we get out of this? And the more the unknown is involved, the more I love it, because it's like I'm sitting there with the folks on the screen trying to figure this thing out. This movie was released in 1971, and it was written by acclaimed author Michael Crichton. So here's the setup, peeps. A man-made satellite is in low Earth orbit doing its thing, innocently collecting upper atmosphere samples for scientific study, when unbeknownst to the folks on the ground who's monitoring it, the satellite has inadvertently picked up an extraterrestrial microorganism that's now hitching a ride back to Earth on this out-of-control satellite. The satellite re-enters Earth's atmosphere and crash lands in the small town of Piedmont. And what happens after that, peeps, is the stuff that great science fiction is made of. So there you have the setup, my people. Let's get into the movie. The movie opens with Caper 1, the dispatch team, making a radio call to the base, Vandal Decker. Caper 1 has been dispatched to the small town of Piedmont, New Mexico, to retrieve the downed satellite. Everything initially appears okay.
Caper 1 to Vandal Decker. Are you reading? Over?
Yes, I'm reading. Over.
We're about to enter the town of Piedmont and recover the satellite.
Very good, Caper 1. Leave your radio open.
Roger.
So as you can see, everything appears very normal and routine, as if this was simply a regular retrieval assignment. The guys at the base are doing their regular thing, as if there was nothing seemingly weird or out of the ordinary going on to them. The retrieval team has their communication channel open, so everything they say is being broadcast back to the base. You can hear the sound of the truck over the intercom as it's being driven. The driver states that they're now inside the town, and then he says, "It's kinda spooky." Even though he said this, the guys at the base appear not to be moved. You've got one guy kind of sitting back in his chair while another guy is reading a book. Apparently to these guys it's the same old day on the job. The driver says that he sees a church steeple on the left, and he notes that it's unusually quiet and there's no signs of life. You know what? Okay, peeps, here we go. I don't care how small a town may be, you're going to see activity and signs of life. This statement seems to have attracted the guys because they all seem to be listening to the broadcast now. The driver then says the satellite signal is getting stronger.
Sir, you see that, Lieutenant?
See what, Crane?
Over there by the fence. It looks like a body.
Easy, Crane. You're imagining things.
Sir, it's another one.
You're right.
The driver moves to get out of the truck, but the lieutenant tells him to stay put. The guy at the base gets on the mic and asks the pair what's happening. The lieutenant says, "We see bodies, lots of them." The guy at the base tells them that their orders are to proceed to the satellite and retrieve it. And the lieutenant says, "Roger." You know what, peeps? You high. You high. You strictly high. Let me be the one driving up on this hot, everybody laid out unalive mess. I ain't touching nothing. They don't have some special net to throw over this thing and pick it up with some kind of special crane. They in a truck. Look, let me see one unalive dog, cat, possum laying in the middle of the street, and I'm going AWOL.
What are you doing?
I didn't sign up for this.
I'm just saying. I'm out. Look, peeps, I'm just being honest. I'm not getting mixed up in this. I did not sign up for this. Heck, I only joined up for the paycheck, the health care, and then the GI Bill when this was done. Look, I'm just saying. Not the one. Now, everybody's listening. Literally trained on the report that's coming through the speaker. One guy in the room stands up and the commander says, "Stay at your station." Then he says, "Hit the security button," which I guess is the equivalent of lock the doors. The commander then gets on the phone and asks for a major man check. While he's waiting to be connected, the driver and lieutenant's conversation is still being transmitted over the intercom. The driver says somehow they don't hardly look unalive, and the lieutenant says they're all over the place. There must be dozens of them. The driver says it's sort of like they just dropped in their tracks. Then they say this.
Sir! You see that thing in white?
Yeah, it's coming toward us.
Sir, I think we should get out of it.
Well, needless to say, all contact with the pair on the ground was broken. The commander is able to contact Mancheck, and Mancheck rushes to the base. He orders a flyover of the town, and soon a jet is flying overhead. As the jet reaches the small town, the pilot sees the horrific scene of bodies strewn everywhere, and he reports this to Mancheck, who then declares a state of emergency, restricting all personnel to the base, telling the commander that everything seen and heard in that room is now top secret. Mancheck then goes into a secret room, gets on a top secret high-level telephone, and we know that it's secret and high-level because it's red. And all secret top-level telephones are red. Mancheck dials a number and then says this: "I recommend calling a wildfire alert." Okay, peeps, what we see now is a team being put together to deal with this thing. It's 1971, and in 1971, the military just showed up at your house, said, "Come with us," and you went. I'm going to assume these people have some top secret military clearance due to some relationship they have already with the military that perhaps their families weren't even aware of. They began with Dr. Jeremy Stone, who's a microbiologist, and he ends up being the leader of this team. The wife tells them, "Hey, we got a party going on here." Then she looks past the two guys standing at her door and sees a soldier standing near a black car with a rifle slung over his shoulder. And it's sort of like, okay, is this weird or no? She goes to get her husband, and she's miffed, thinking he knew this was going to happen, and he didn't give her a heads up. He tells her he didn't know anything about this, and he'll explain everything to her later. He goes to the door, and the guy there tells him there's a fire, and he seems to recognize this code word. He goes back in and tells his wife he has to leave, and he's not sure when he'll be back. Boy, back in the day, you could say some crazy stuff and just walk out the door. He gives her a kiss and then leaves. After he's gone, the wife goes into the bedroom and calls her pops up on the phone, because this is all the way too weird for her.
Dad, something very peculiar has just happened, even for Jeremy. Dad, are you there?
This communication is being monitored. The connection has been broken for reasons of national security.
Okay, peeps, if I wasn't worried before, I would be now. My phone calls being monitored? Look, folks, if it was me, my husband would have a lot of explaining to do once he got home. Okay, moving on. The next pickup is Charles Dutton. He's a biochemist. He's received a telephone call in the middle of the night, and he tells his wife he has to leave. Boy, these dudes just telling their wives they just got to get up and go. And he tells his wife he doesn't need anything packed. His wife asks, can't you at least tell me where you're going? And of course, peeps, he can. I believe that the only hope for these guys is that they've had to do something similar to this with their wives before, and so their wives kind of have an idea that, okay, he's not ripping and running the streets. This is something important he's doing. It's national security that he's doing. And so at least they may have this going for him. Next on the pickup list is Dr. Ruth Leavitt, a nuclear research specialist. Fun fact, this role was initially written for a guy. But I guess somewhere in the middle of this, it was determined that they need a little estrogen to kind of balance the group out. And I think she does a real fine job. Leavitt initially balks when the soldier shows up to get her. He says, Dr. Leavitt, I told you there's a fire. Wink, wink, code word. She says to him, my experiment's at a critical stage. I've been working around the clock. I can't just leave now. Leavitt's assistant says all the doctor needs is rest, and she hands her a glass of water and a pill. The soldier says to Leavitt if her physician certifies she's unable to continue, and she straight up says no. She's apparently deciding to go. Last, we have Dr. Mark Hall. He's a surgeon and a pathologist, and he's apparently in the middle of surgery when they come for him. He's literally ready to cut into his patient when he's told to stop. He's told there's a call for him from a Dr. Robertson from the White House, and he's told that his orders are to bring scrubs. Dr. Hall says, orders? And the guy tells him it's all arranged and he's expected in the surgeon's room in 30 seconds. Okay, peeps, is it me, or does that look like a cop in the observation area just outside of the operating room? Now we see Stone and Hall in a helicopter on their way to the town. Stone says they presume it could be some form of space germ, to which Hall remarks, presumably, this stuff is non-porous. He says this as he's giving Stone's hazard suit a tug. As the helicopter nears the town, they see vultures below doing their regular old vulture thing.
Birds will eat the infected flesh and then fly off and spread the disease.
If it is a disease.
To combat this, they drop a special gas that will only target and affect the birds. Once the gas has dissipated, the helicopter lands and then hovers at a safe distance above the pair, ready to retrieve them at a moment's notice. With the helicopter hovering overhead, the pair begin to make their inspection of the town. Looking down at the body of an old man, Stone says, coronary? To which Hall responds, I doubt it. They continue walking and come across unalive body after unalive body. A guy and his dog, kids who look like they were in the middle of playing ball, a priest walking out of his church, or a mailman delivering the mail. Even a woman who appears to have been returning home from the grocery store. The odd thing about all of this, well, other than an entire town being unalive, is how the bodies are found. It seems as if they dropped right in the middle of walking, of bouncing a ball, of taking a stride. It's as if 1 minute they were doing whatever it was they were doing, and then they just dropped where they were. The pair continue searching the town for any signs of life. They look through the window of the general store, the barber shop. The pair is not only just looking around, but they're trying to figure out how these people met their demise.
Are you sure that isn't coronary?
No, a coroner is painful. They should grimace.
If it was fast, they wouldn't have time.
Fast. These people were cut down in mid-stride.
So the pair continue searching, continue looking through windows, and finding the same at each turn, another unalived person. It gets to the point where one of the guys gets fed up and says, let's just find the darn satellite. Okay, Pete, darn is my word, his word was the other word. But Brother Man is still getting fed up. I think you can only walk around and hopelessly just see man, woman, child, pet, and you know what? You just about had your fill. And I think that's where this guy is coming from. He's had his fill of this. And his thing now is, let's just find what we came for and let's get out of here. As they are walking, the pair spot a truck and they go over to investigate. The driver and passenger are wearing military jumpsuits and both are deceased. The one guy walks around to the driver's side of the truck and he notices something.
This injury. There isn't any bleeding. A cut like this, torn veins, broken capillaries, it should bleed like hell.
Yes. Well, there's no blood on any of them.
Well, peeps, I don't know what that means other than the fact that I think it's important. The pair gets back into their van and they follow a signal they're receiving from a detector on top of the roof. As they're driving, they're passing more bodies in the roadway. The signal is getting louder and stronger, and they're eventually led to a doctor's office. And guess what they find inside? The satellite in a room with the doctor's body. And the satellite has been opened. This guy's ignorance and curiosity has wiped out an entire town. You know, peeps, curiosity is a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing. It's a good thing when it's leading towards discovery of something good, of knowledge, and things of that nature. But curiosity can really turn your life on its head when you've got it pointing in the wrong direction. Wisdom, in this case, in cases like this, is being able to discern when you need to tamp down your curiosity. It is no way and no reason behind this guy opening something and you don't even know what it is. You know, you could have called the authorities, you could have called the military, because apparently these guys didn't have to go far to try to find this thing. You could have called the military and say, hey, look, something fell out of the sky. It might belong to you guys. You come on through, pick it up. But no. His mind told him it would be okay and cool for him to monkey around with it. And not only did he harm himself, but he took out a whole town. And, come on, work with me, peeps. He has potentially unleashed this thing into the atmosphere. And now it is a potential danger to the planet. Okay? And this is what you get when, number one, you're touching stuff that you shouldn't be touching, that you don't understand, and you don't even have the savviness enough to know to be able to recognize potential dangers. People, you know what? This is real life as well. This is how stuff get loose. This really is. Satellite doesn't necessarily have to fall out of the sky. All that needs to happen is somebody in the lab just monkeying around with some stuff and they leave the door and the window open. And they break the petri dish. Or they didn't double, triple, quadruple glove themselves up and now they can cut themselves. And now something is airborne. Come on, y'all. I'm just saying. So, while in the doctor's office, Hall has a thought. If you will remember, Hall is a pathologist, which means his thing is all about diagnosing medical conditions and diseases. Hall notices that the body is absent the typical signs of lividity. And then he does something I personally would consider reckless. He cuts on the body and discovers this.
It's clotted throughout the entire system. 5 quarts of blood turned to powder. There isn't an organism on Earth.
You mean there didn't used to be?
The pair are now standing outside when they hear the sound of a baby crying. Following the sound, they discover the baby in what looks like some type of an office nursery. Hall picks the baby up, and Stone says the baby shouldn't be fed, to which Hall remarks that the kid hadn't been fed in at least 12 hours. Stone says they can't do anything until they get the kid out of there and into a controlled situation. The pair goes outside and signals for the helicopter to pick them up. Then, out of nowhere, this old man appears and he attacks Hall. It looks like he has some type of weapon in his hand. He's standing over Hall and he's shouting, "You did this! You did it!" Stone appears and tells the old man to give him the weapon, to which the old man responds, "You're not human." Then he yells, "Everybody's unalive." After that, he grimaces and then keels over onto the ground. And there he lays, writhing in pain. Stone reports in from the helicopter and tells Manchek that the town should be neutralized immediately. Okay, now peeps, personally, I think the best way to handle this is with flamethrower. Okay? Just burn everything up. I think all neutralizing will do is blow this germ or this alien organism into the air, making it airborne for sure. And you know what? As a microbiologist, Stone should know better than to suggest this as a way to handle the contamination of this town. Now, that just happens to be my 17 cents worth. Manchek nixes the neutralizing idea of Stone's, and he later goes to a meeting with high-ranking guys at the White House in their Situation Room. He briefs these guys, expressing the president's concerns, and reports that the president has decided to postpone this neutralizing for 24 to 48 hours. In the meantime, they're calling out the National Guard to cordon off the town, which seems to be sort of in an isolated area. All these guys shouldn't attract too much attention. Then what they decide to do is to have everything done out of one of their special facilities named Wildfire in Nevada. Manchek states there's no inhabited area within 112 square miles of this place, so it would appear perfect. The facility has been specifically constructed to contain and analyze organisms from outer space. And this is a biggie, it's equipped with a quote-unquote wink-wink peeps neutralizing, because I don't want to say any words that's going to get me in trouble. Y'all know what I'm talking about, because you just saw a picture of it. It's equipped with this neutralizing self-destruct device. So at the end of the day, all the way around, this is the perfect place to take the baby, the old man, and to try to figure out what the heck happened in this town, and more importantly, what got loose in this town.
No one's been down this goat path for years.
That's how it's supposed to look.
Putting in the potholes?
Relax and enjoy your cigarette. It's your last.
Great place to grow pot.
Peeps, I already like this chick. Kinda rough around the edges. She's funny while not trying to be. She's gonna speak her mind regardless, and she's gonna tell you like it is. She's just all the way unapologetically herself. If you will remember The driver is Dutton, the biochemist, and Levitt, the chick, is a research specialist. They have driven who knows how many miles to get to this facility, Wildfire. They drive up to this super isolated 51 looking place that has this high fence cordoning the whole area off. And inside we see quite the innocuous looking building with a sign on it that says U.S. Department of Agriculture. Then under that, Agriculture Research Center. Yeah, okay, I guess this is Farmer Jake standing outside. The pair is walking to the stairs of the building when Levitt glances at a set of barriers that have blinking red lights on them. She looks, then quickly turns away while placing her hand over her eyes. Dutton asks if anything is wrong, and Levitt says, "I never liked red lights. Remind me of my years in a bordello." Okay, Pete, for those of you who might be too young to know what that is, another word for it might be brothel or house of ill repute. Okay, I think y'all can get it. And Dutton laughs at this as they go up the stairs. And this is another thing I like about Levitt. Sister Girl got jokes. She is sarcastically funny. They enter the building, and there's a guy at the desk reading a newspaper. The guy asks Dutton, "You got the time?" Dutton looks at his watch and says, "My watch stopped at 11:46. The guy says, "Darn shame," and Dutton responds, "It must be the heat." Now, peeps, this little exchange is reminiscent to something you would typically see back in the day on the Mission Impossible episodes. Jim Phelps would go into a building, into a room, into some place, and have this little coded exchange with somebody, and then they would lead him to where he would find a tape recorder and a manila envelope with some photos in it, and he would get his assignment. Next, we see that Dutton and Levitt, and peeps, let me go on and apologize right now. Because this chick, I'm going to end up calling this chick Levitt, Love It, Leave It, whichever. So whichever I say, you know who I'm talking about, okay? I'm old. And this pronunciation is going to be toe up. And even though I do try to catch it, 9 times, 1 time out of 10 maybe or so, there are going to be those times where not only am I going to mispronounce the poor child's name, I'm going to miss that I mispronounced it, and it's going to get through. I believe in reality the child's name is Leavitt, Leavitt, but okay, I'm just telling you, you're going to get all kind of old people pronunciation. So to continue, Dutton and Leavitt have made their way past the guy at the front desk. They're walking down the hall, and Levitt opens the door. Dutton turns to her and says, "It's all fake, believe me." Then he opens a door on his side of the hallway, and he says to her, "Step in." It looks like a small storage room until... The storage room is an elevator, peeps, taking them to the actual wildfire facility that's below ground. The whole storage room elevator is reminiscent, come on, my older peeps, let's go on back in the day to a popular TV program, Get Smart. Y'all will remember Maxwell Smart would get into a phone booth that was actually an elevator, and that is how he accessed the spy agency he worked for. And the name of that agency was, come on my peeps, those of you who go back that far and remember, shout it out with me. The name of that agency was Control. Now we see elevator doors opening and Dutton and Levitt exiting into a still room.
Put your hands on that glass, palms down. It's a finger and palm print analyzer that...
It's a composite of 10,000 dramatic graphic lines.
How'd you know that?
Oh, Dutton. I have a long criminal record.
Personally, I think the chick is brilliant. I don't think she simply knows a little bit about some stuff. I think she knows a lot about a bunch of stuff. But she plays off her brilliance with her sarcastic, rough around the edges type of attitude. The elevator doors on the other side slide open to reveal a red elevator. This is where Dutton and Levitt connect with team leader Dr. Stone. He takes the pair to a computer room and he asks the guy who's sitting at the computer if there were any messages for them, and the guy says no. No personal messages? Levitt asks. He says no, ma'am. Then Stone asks the guy, is there anything from a Dr. Robinson? I'm expecting a top priority communication. And again, the guy says, no, there's nothing. And then some few minutes later, this comes over the computer teletype. A message comes through providing the name classification for the unknown organism. That classification is Andromeda Strain. Now, the group leaves the communication area and there's a woman standing outside the door. They're on the highest level in this facility, and that's the red level, which is why everything is painted red and the clothing that the people wear are red as well. Now, okay, let me digress a moment so this makes sense. Wildfire is a high security laboratory built to contain and study ET microorganisms. Now, this underground facility has 5 levels, the highest security level being level 5, which is red. This is where the lab is located, which has the Andromeda Strain contained. Below that is level 4, which is orange. It's a lesser security than level red. This level still handles potentially dangerous materials and experiments. Below that is level 3, which is yellow. This is a moderate security area. People here have limited access to certain areas of the facility and may engage in less hazardous tasks. Level 2 and 1 are green and blue areas and not touched on in the movie. So really, I kind of wanted to give you an understanding of levels 5, 4, and 3, which is red, orange, and yellow. Okay, let's continue. So we see the group leaving the computer room, and there's a woman standing outside. You notice that she collects Dutton's glasses and tells Levitt to follow her while the guys go off in the opposite direction. And just so you know, this woman is collecting Dutton's glasses, and she'll be collecting Levitt's glasses later on, and we know that because there's a spot in the movie where she returns glasses to the both of them. The reason why she has collected their glasses is to make sure the glasses get sterilized. Anything coming from the outside into this facility is either going to get fired up or is going to get sterilized. I forbid they bring in innocently some little old germ from the outside on a pair of glasses, and then somehow it gets mixed up with this ET organism. All heck is gonna break loose, which is why, and I'm glad we're chatting about this now, I neglected to inform you there is a quote-unquote neutralizing device in this facility just in case something does get loose and tries to run amok. So everybody changes into a red outfit, and a voice coming from an overhead speaker tells the group to gather in conference room 1. Once there, we can see that Lovett is already engrossed in reading the binder of material they've been given. At the same time, we see Stone putting something around Hall's neck.
What's it for?
You're the odd man's other key, and Wildfire itself depend on your key.
Stone tells Hall he's the odd man, meaning he has a uniquely pivotal role and responsibility within the group. Stone goes on to say that Wildfire is equipped to self-destruct in the case of an emergency, okay peeps, i.e. something getting loose. Stone tells Hall that he's inserted his key into the main station, arming the mechanism. So this thing is armed now. Dutton goes on to add that it will only go off if there's danger of infection breaking out from here, meaning from the facility. Stone goes on to tell Hall that his key, which he's inserted into the mechanism, can't be removed. The only way to disarm the mechanism now is for Hall to insert his key into one of the substations located throughout the facility. Stone tells Hall there's a 5-minute delay between the time detonation locks in and detonation, meaning Hall has only 5 minutes to disarm the device, thus preventing detonation.
That silver key can't be removed. 5-minute delay between the time detonation locks in and the bomb explodes. You always know where you are in relation to the nearest substation. Each level has 3 substations. Cancel self-destruct by inserting your red key in a substation. Is the apparatus for self-destruct.
Well, that's it, peeps. Short and sweet. I don't see nobody flinching. I don't hear anybody saying, hey, I didn't sign up for this, let me out. I changed my mind. No, they're all in, people, and you want to know why? They've dedicated themselves to saving the world. You had military people showing up at their door saying, you gotta come with me right now. And they know the only reason why these folks are knocking on their door saying, come with me in the dead of doggone night, it must be something really bad that has jumped off that you need me. And keep in mind, I know what my particular skills are. I know that I'm a pathologist, or a microbiologist, or a biochemist, or this research specialist. I don't even have to know who else you have brought into this. Just me knowing my skill set. I'm a pathologist and the military is standing here for me. Or I'm a biochemist, or a microbiologist, and I got 2 suited up military dudes standing here. I know some jumped off. I don't even have to know who else is coming to the party. If you invited me, it's a hot mess. Yeah, especially if you invited me to the party. I know it's bad. It is real bad if you showed up saying, your country needs you. It's gonna be, oh dang. This a hot mess now. But this is what these guys are about. They came in without even knowing how toe up this is. And even though Levitt, she was kind of begrudgingly showing up, Sister Girl was going to show up. We all know she was coming. She wasn't going to be left out of this party. And here they are talking about, okay, before they even get started on trying to deal with this organism, they are talking about not letting it get out, which means neutralizing this site. Nobody gets in. Nobody leaves. It's a quote from a movie. Shoot. That's a quote from, Kyle Reese. Am I having a moment? I think Kyle Reese said that. He came through, then I came through. Then, we neutralized the site. So it's just me and him. Okay. Sorry, my people, I digress a bit. But you know what? I'm old, so I'm going to have these little senior moments. But I'm sure you get my point. These people are all in. And they have bought so all in that they got no problem neutralizing the site with them in it. That's how bought in they are. To continue, peeps, Stone then goes on to tell the group it will take them 16 hours to get through the decontamination procedures. Dutton asks, "Are you sure the old man and the baby are still alive?" We can see that both are still alive.
Are you sure the old man and the baby are still alive?
I'm hoping the intravenous dextrose and saline will hold them until we get to them.
So here's the deal. They can't feed the baby and the old man because they've both been exposed to this ET organism. And so they don't know what introducing food into their systems will do. So instead, the pair is being intravenously fed this dextrose and saline. I think it's a combination of water and carbs. And so at least the old man and the baby are getting some type of quote-unquote food, if you will, until, as Hall says, we can get to them. So as we follow the group around, we can see that the 16 hours of decontamination is beyond being an arduous experience for them. They're hit with special decontamination x-rays, they're pricked and probed and inoculated. They've even had the outer epithelial layer of their skin burned away.
The outer epithelial layers of your skin that have been burned away. Please replace the helmet in compartment and proceed through shower in next room. Then you may dress and descend to level 4.
They are going through anything and everything anybody can come up with in their minds regarding decontaminating a human being. I mean, they are hitting these people all over their bodies. In addition to them sitting down and having to go through this long involved medical history kind of deal with the computer. So yeah, I can see how this can take 16 hours, and I can see how you can get tired and broke down and pretty much through by the time the 16 hours of this decontamination is over with. But once again, they are going through this, they are putting up with this because they have bought into their tasks. And again, their task is to save the world. Once the 16 hours of decontamination is complete, the team gathers in the hallway and Stone tells them they'll be meeting in the cafeteria, and he tells them when to be there. In the meantime, Hall is looking for and memorizing the location of the substations that are located on each floor. As for Stone, he goes to where the capsule is being contained, and he just sits and stares at it. It's now day 3, and the group is meeting in the cafeteria before they begin the task of figuring out this ET organism before it starts to spread. We can assume, since we haven't heard anything different, that the ET organism has been contained to the remote small town area. The group's breakfast consists of a nutritionally rich orange drink called, guess what peeps, Tang. Now fun fact, Tang became a super popular drink with the NASA astronauts due to its ability to mix well with water in a weightless environment. Its association with NASA contributed to its popularity because every little kid in the United States of America wanted to drink some Tang once it went up into space. And so, literally, Tang became a household name. Even me and my siblings drank Tang. So, all the team has to eat, if you will, is Tang and nutritional supplements they were being given in pill form. All of this was just as difficult for the old man and the little baby. They weren't being fed actual food either. Instead, they were being fed nutrients intravenously to keep them alive. And it did just that. It was keeping them alive but not fed. This is why the little baby is constantly crying literally throughout this whole movie. Because what? Because he's hungry. Because he's literally not eating food. As the group leaves the cafeteria, Stone hands off something additional to the team.
Stop by your rooms and insert these before taking the elevator.
I have risked drowning in that foul bath. I have been parboiled, irradiated, and xenon flashed. And now you suggest
I have to. We haven't done anything about the GI tract yet.
Come on, peeps. Look at Sister Girl's face. Look at her face. She going, really? Really? You kidding me? For real? Is this for real? Look at her expression. And you know what? I can't blame a Sister Girl. Remember, they have gone through 16 hours of decontamination. And now they're going to roll up on a sister and hand her this. Come on, peeps. You know what it is. You know what it's for. And she going, really? For real? I know in her mind of mind, she is saying, this better be worth all this. It better be worth it. We better find an E.T. This better be worth it. Now, Hall and Dutton are walking along, and Dutton is telling Hall where he can find his patients, i.e. the old man and the baby. They're located in another area of the facility. In the meantime, the pair continues to the lab where everything is set up to study the satellite with its hitchhiker, the organism. Now we see the satellite is sealed in a protective container, and Stone is using robotic arms to safely handle the satellite. First, Stone lifts the cover on the top of the satellite, exposing the satellite's interior. Then, using the robotic arms, Stone removes a cage from among a stack of caged animals. Stone places the caged mouse near the satellite, then he lifts the protective door. Within a matter of seconds, the mouse keels over. Stone says whatever unalive the people in Piedmont is still there, and it's still as potent as ever. Levitt suggests bringing out the rhesus monkey, and Stone does, with the same results. Both the mouse and the monkey are sent off to have a post-mortem performed, and Dutton leaves the lab as performing the post-mortems are his responsibility. As for Hall, he's gone to examine the old man and the baby. There's a nurse already there, and she informs him that she's followed the computer's instructions and it's analyzed the old man and the baby. The nurse tells Hall that all this is new for them. Sure, they've practiced for this and had drills, but until now, none of this was real. She said it had become just a game to them, an ongoing exercise to see if they could actually handle something like this. She tells Hall that they'd never faced a deadly disease before, and truth be told, peeps, that's the potential hidden problem with this type of scenario. The majority of the folks at this facility aren't military, per se. They're not soldiers with that do or die, all in body and we got this to the last man attitude. Most of them are regular people like this nurse, who are experts in their fields, but still regular people. What happens if something gets serious, something jumps off? Will they stand and maintain their post? Come on, remember, peeps, they've been practicing for something like this, so they're not clueless of their role or their jobs. But as we all know, practicing something is a whole lot different than being in the midst of that something.
I've been drilling for 3 months.
Thank God for an expert.
Until now, wildfire's been like a game. I never believed this could really happen.
Well, it has happened.
At the same time, Dutton is conducting the post-mortem on the mouse and the monkey, as well as conducting additional experiments. He, like the others, is contained in a special room. This room contains a hermetically sealed space, which Dutton calls the hot room. The hot room is accessible only one way, and that's through a special opening in the wall. The airlock is accessed through a steel door, where the individual travels down a chute and through an accordion-like attachment to the inner wall. The end of the accordion is attached to a protective spacesuit. The spacesuit is equipped with its own sealed life support system to protect the wearer against contamination. The accordion attachment allows the wearer to freely move about the room. Dutton's assistant had initially attempted to set up an experiment using the mechanical arms, but trying to manipulate them to perform a precise task was taking too long, so he went into the hot room to make the connections himself.
Nothing can happen, sir. I'm faster than the hands.
I want you out of the hot room.
Once the assistant is out of the hot room, the experiments are conducted and the results show that the organism is definitely airborne, which really doesn't take a rocket scientist because of how this organism rushed through and decimated a whole entire town in almost no time at all. That would lead anybody with sort of kinda a scientific brain to surmise that this was not something that was spread by contact, because it unalived everybody roughly about the same time except for the baby and the old man. And so it had to be airborne. But then again, I'm sure they had to go through their little experiments to confirm this so they can move on to the next stage, which is to determine the organism size.
Wow. Transmitted by air, as we thought. Could be a gas or some kind of a virus.
As you can see, Dutton adjusts the airflow to a second cage that's housing a mouse. In a matter of seconds, it keels over. And peeps, y'all know I'm squeamish, so I'm not looking at or showing you this mouse keeling over. I got one eye closed as I pass the clip with the mouse keeling over. Once again, my constitution a little bit too sensitive for all that.
Whatever it is, it's larger than a virus.
Airborne transmission?
Yes.
So Dutton has reported his findings to Stone and Lovett, who's still in the lab with the satellite. Apparently, Dutton has given the pair something to work with.
Switch to manual, Ruth. The interior is too irregular to probe an automatic.
While Stone and Lovett are conducting their probe, Hall is still with his patients, trying to puzzle how they survived this organism that took out an entire town. He asks the nurse what's been done for them. The nurse says plasma for the old man, dextrose for the baby. She tells him that the key lab studies are done on automated machines, i.e., I guess, computers. Hall takes a seat and the nurse logs in. Within seconds, information appears across the screen. It looks like some type of blood protein analysis, but okay, peeps, y'all know I'm not medical. I'm retired. And even when I wasn't retired, I still wasn't medical. So I cannot translate this. Apparently, there's something missing there for Stone. He's upset that the computer can only tell him that the old man's blood is acidic, but it doesn't tell him why. The nurse suggests he ask the old man himself. The sealed room where the old man and baby are being kept is accessible through the same airlock system Dutton's assistant used to enter the hot room. The nurse explains the process to Hall. Then she demonstrates it for him by going through first. Then Hall follows behind. Once Hall is suited up, he examines the old man and the baby. Then he asks the old man a series of questions, hoping to discover the reason why he and the baby are still alive.
What's your name?
Jackson.
Bleeding in your stomach? You have an ulcer?
Been tootin'.
What do you do for it?
Aspirin and squeeze.
Squeeze? What's that? Has a 2-year history of bleeding ulcers.
You seem delighted.
It may be the reason he survived.
Looking at the computer, we can see that this squeeze is actually called sterno. Now, peeps, you all know sterno. You've all likely seen sterno before, because what it is a brand of jellied, denatured alcohol. So that's the definition of it, but here's how it's used. If you've ever gone to a buffet and you saw that little tin thing under a metal pan keeping the food warm, that is sterno. And apparently what old man Jackson has been up to is he's been making this squeeze drink from the sterno. I'm not going to describe the process to go through to do that. You're not getting it from me. The end result is this concentrated alcohol that this guy is drinking. And if you will remember, he has already said that he takes aspirin and this squeeze for his ulcer. I'd be willing to bet anything that the combination of these two things put together is what protected or shielded him from the organism's effect. Now you might say, well, what about the little kid? Well, what they discovered talking to old man Jackson is apparently all this kid ever did was cry. So this crying jag that he's on is not the result of being exposed to this organism. This is this kid's regular MO. So we have two, I would say, curious things that should be looked at. And number one is that old man Jackson is self-treating his ulcer. But number two, what is up with this kid that had him on this crying jag way before he was ever exposed? So to me, those are two unique things enough that I think, should be investigated further to glean a potential answer as to why these two individuals are the only survivors. Okay, peeps, while Hall is doing his thing in the medical area, Stone and Levitt are in the lab with the satellite, while Dutton is still conducting his experiments in the post-mortem lab. Dutton has some findings he's sharing with the others via their intercom system.
That tells us what we want to know, Hall. The organism is inhaled. The clotting begins in the lungs and spreads outward.
I didn't think it possible. I didn't think the total volume of blood could solidify that fast.
So Dutton confirmed it's an airborne organism that's inhaled as opposed to entering the body through the pores. Clotting begins in the lungs and spreads outward, solidifying the blood, I guess, into some type of powdery form. Okay, so they have the how confirmed. That leaves pinning down what this thing is on a chemical, molecular, whatever basis, which Stone and Levitt seems to be doing, and trying to come up with an antidote, which Hall seems to be trying to do by looking at the survivors.
Score nothing to nothing.
Go to 100 power. Shadow. It's an indentation. Go to 40. Maybe it's just a grain of sand.
Stone and Levitt have discovered something unusual on a portion of the satellite. Something that Stone at first questions if it's a grain of sand, until he sees tiny splashes of green on it. Okay, people, look, even I know this don't look right. Okay, this might get janky in a couple of minutes, and so we gonna see what kind of turn this is gonna get ready and take. As you can see, there's a questioning frown on Levitt's face, and Stone gets up to move his chair even closer to the monitor.
This left border over here, it's smooth.
Jeremy.
You okay?
It's just my eyes. Did you see that?
I saw it. You didn't change the lighting.
I didn't touch it. It's growing.
You know what? Okay, peeps. The two worst words I don't ever want to hear when two folks are talking about a microscopic alien form, and those two words are, it's growing. Okay? Only to be matched by, it's alive. Okay? Neither nor either or those words you do not want to hear. Okay, yeah, I think it's time for me to take a bathroom break, and, okay, I got to get a little tummy ache, so it might take me a little bit to get back with y'all, but I'm just going to take this quick little bathroom break. I'm going to try to be as quick as possible. You know what, peeps? I'm out of this joint. People! Come on! You ain't going to tell me something is growing, and I'm going to stay here. Because you know what? I have sense enough to know your little containment field likely will not keep that thing contained. Whatever little bowl you got it sitting in, you don't think it's going to grow out of the bowl? To me, I just see flashes of the blob where it just grow and grow and grow and eating people, steadily eating people and getting bigger. Okay, you know what? I'm going to take a bathroom break. And if I'm not back in about 5 minutes or so, don't wait on me. Continue with the experimentation. Don't wait for me. I'll catch up when I get back. Okay, because I know it's got to be some kind of way for me to get out of this facility. And I don't have a car, but I'm just going to hitchhike my way just away from this area. I might have to climb a fence, and I know I got a little age on me. But you want to know something? If nothing else vitalizes you, I don't know if that's a word, how about revitalizes you? It is you getting yourself away from a potential, it's alive, it's growing, alien life form. Oh yeah, I think I can climb that fence. And I'm going to be gone in the wind. I'm just saying. So as you can see, they're moving the grain-sized alien organism to a petri dish. It looks like Dutton's assistant is helping them. I have to hand it to him. Brother man has nerves of steel. It's about noon and the group has gathered in the cafeteria. Stone excitedly announces that the organism has been isolated, telling Dutton it's in microchemistry. For now, it looks like there's smiles all around. After lunch, everyone gathers in the microchemistry lab. The group continue to analyze the tiny rock only to discover it's not a rock at all. Stone says it's some kind of material that resembles plastic. Levitt says there are no amino acids. Dutton says no proteins, no enzymes. Then Dutton goes on to say that no organism can maintain life without them.
Organism can maintain life without them.
You mean no Earth organism?
It doesn't come from here.
Without chemical reactions, there can't be life. Yet it grows, reproduces.
There's got to be something that the old man and the baby have in common.
5 minutes.
Wouldn't want you to get too far from the substation now.
The group's working hard trying to figure this organism out so they can come up with an antidote. Hall knows Old Man Jackson and the baby are the answer. They have to be because they're the only survivors, with this organism having wiped out the whole rest of the town. Hall's heading back to the medical lab, and Stone reminds him that Wildfire's deneutralizing timer is only set for 5 minutes from the start of countdown. And Dutton reminds him not to get too far from a substation. Remember, he's the odd man out. He's the guy with the key that can stop the countdown and avoid Wildfire deneutralizing the whole entire site. Peeps, these folks have been working overtime and nearly around the clock with very little sleep. And remember, they're drinking Tang and taking nutritional supplements, and that is all these people are getting. While forever hanging over their heads is the fact that time is not on their side. They're going to have to get this thing figured out if they are going to save the world. Look at the time, peeps. The last time we saw the group, it was just after lunch.
We finished by the midnight conference?
Easy.
Good. You can give us the results then.
Some minutes later, we can see Levitt just sitting there, and there is seriously something wrong with this sister. I don't think this chick is just sitting there tired and overworked. I think something is actually wrong with her. You know what? Remember in the beginning, she and Dutton were first arriving there. There were blinking red lights on this barrier, and she turned and shielded her eyes. Remember? Wow, you know what? How long has she been just sitting there zoned out? Oh man, it's not good. This is not good. Well, peeps, it's day 4, and the group has gathered in the cafeteria for breakfast and to sort of brief for the day.
What's wrong with the baby's blood?
Nothing. I'll have the answer when I know why a 69-year-old sterno drinker with an ulcer is like a normal 6-month-old baby.
Okay, peeps, I admit I kind of get lost in all the scientific jargon, and I couldn't find a clear enough clip to explain this. So here you have it. What they do is they slice a bit of the ET organism culture that was in the petri dish. They took a sliver of it and put it on a special screen. Levitt says, looks like a crystal, and she goes on to tell the group that's the answer to how the organism functions without amino acids. Stone says it's the organism's crystalline structure. Then Dutton says it's dividing. Stone says, almost incredulously, while in a vacuum, being bombarded by electrons, almost as if he can't believe it. And he goes on to say it shouldn't even be alive. Levitt says the growth program shows the organism can live on anything. Only gas and light affected. Stone says it's perfect for existence in outer space. It consumes everything, wastes nothing. You know what, peeps? That sounds like the perfect, E.T. alien, doesn't it? It always seems like the aliens are so incredibly, just not regularly, but incredibly efficient. And in many times, they are so much more incredibly efficient than we are, which seems to be the human's downfall, you know, until they either discover the answer or, in many sci-fi movies, they just luck up on it. And it seems like that might be the case here. Because even though they discovered a little bit of something, the group is still mystified. Levitt rushes over to the computer and starts pushing buttons and saying, with this new data, we can now get a computerized version of how the organism functions.
They're not uniform. Could be mutation.
Stone says 601 means that the computer's overloaded. Too much data coming in too fast. Dividing and mutating at the same time, Dutton adds, and nothing to stop it, Levitt says, shaking her head. Normal Earth checks and balances don't exist for it.
These are biological warfare maps.
Well, yes, so they are. Simulations, Charlie. Defensive. It's just a scenario.
That's not the point, for God's sake. Wildfire was built for germ warfare.
And there you have it, peeps. This facility, Wildfire, is a military installation built for germ warfare. Levitt says the facility and the satellite were built for germ warfare, and she tells Stones that he knew it. From the very beginning, he knew this. Stone says it's not true. He says he learned about the satellite the same time she did. Notice he makes no mention of not knowing about Wildfire. Dutton says the purpose of the satellite was to find new biological weapons in outer space and then use Wildfire to develop them. Boy, oh boy, ain't this nothing. At the end of the day, this sounds like you cleaning up a mess somebody else made. This wasn't some rock that attached itself to your satellite and it fell out of the sky. You went up there purposely looking for these rocks, looking for asteroids, looking for anything and everything you can potentially use as a weapon down here. And guess what? You found it. The problem is it just got away from you. And now, you, being Stone, you trying to act like you all innocent. And you just as befuddled as everybody else. Oh no, brother, you know a lot more than what you talking about.
It stinks, Stone.
You're blowing your tops. We have no proof. The map! That map only shows what Andromeda could do in the hands of an enemy.
Enemy? We did it to ourselves.
Perhaps.
Another giant leap for mankind. I wish I could believe you.
Dutton says the purpose of the satellite was to find new biological weapons in outer space and then use Wildfire to develop them. In essence, this Wildfire facility is a bioweaponizing facility. Stone justifies all of this by alluding to some enemy getting their hands on the organism, and that Wildfire is used to determine how a bad guy could or would develop it. Dutton says, we did this to ourselves. In essence, he's saying, dude, we the bad guys. And he's right. Peeps, an entire town got wiped out. Men, women, children, dogs, cats, birds. How do you justify this? You can't. Stone hangs his head while Levitt and Dutton are giving him the business. He's trying to act all innocent, downplay what he knows, but Levitt, that chick's no stoop. She just stands there, looking at him, shaking her head and saying, I wish I could believe you. You know what, sister? I wouldn't believe this dude as far as I could pick him up and throw him down a flight of stairs. I wouldn't believe him at all.
Whether you do or not, the only important thing now is to find the antidote. Let's get on with it, Charlie. Test the cultured organisms for biologic potency.
All right. I'll run them against a rat in autopsy.
Wow, peeps. Levitt is still staring daggers at Stone, and he can't even look this chick in the eye. Regardless of how mad Levitt and Dutton might be, They know Stone is right. They've got to figure this thing out and discover an antidote. Dutton is heading back to Autopsy to test the organism cultures with live mice. Stone goes back to the other lab to try to learn something of the mutated organism, and Levitt takes a seat where she is to do her research from there. In the meantime, Hall is in medical, still trying to figure out why Old Man Jackson and the baby are still alive. The baby is yet crying because he's hungry, and the nurse wants to feed the little tiny, but Hall says no, not yet. He says the key to figuring this organism out just might lie with the baby. And before Hall can say anything more,
Contamination.
Needless to say, this alarm has everybody running. The overhead comm is saying a seal has broken in Autopsy. Emergency procedures are in effect. Hall is running as well, and he stops at one of the substations and sees that it's still lit blue. So he continues running down the hall. There's a group gathered at the Autopsy door, and Dutton's assistant is banging on the door and calling his name. Hall comes up and asks, is he still alive? All the assistant says is, I should be in there with him. One of the other guys tell the assistant it's no use, the door is sealed off. Then Hall turns and heads towards the lab where Stone should be.
I'm scared. Oh, Lord, I'm scared.
You'll be okay, Charlie. We're pumping pure oxygen through your lab now. We know Andromeda doesn't do well on oxygen.
He's alive.
Hall can't believe what he's seeing, and he says to Stone, it's amazing he's still alive. And Stone says it's been 3 minutes. And he adds, I don't know how long that can hold him. Meaning the pure oxygen that's being pumped into the lab. Stone tells Dutton that they're working on some ideas, and Dutton responds, ask your germ warfare friends. They have a lot of good ideas. Stone tells Dutton to try to stay calm. Okay, dude. Brother Man has seen how the mice killed over and how the monkey killed over when they were exposed to this stuff. This is firmly in his little mind, so telling him to stay calm, it's going to be kind of tight. Dutton knows he's all jammed up. Stone turns the audio off so he can talk to Hall without Dutton hearing. Hall asks, what happened? And Stone says a seal must have broken in there. Hall says, poor guy, look at the way he's breathing. He's scared to death. And Dutton is breathing super fast, literally on the edge of hyperventilating. And then this happens.
That oxygen should relax him, slow down his breathing.
No, we want him to breathe fast. In Piedmont, Jackson was cracked on sterno. Sternoacidosis. Acidosis, rapid breathing. Turn off the oxygen. Put him on room air.
The baby, he's normal.
Cries all the time. Can't catch his breath.
Rapid breathing, or it just can't be that simple.
Again, the nurse wants to feed the baby, and Hall tells her no, instructing her to run a blood value on him, getting his pH measurements. Hall tells Stone that with the kid's constant crying, he's blowing off carbon dioxide. Therefore, he should have too little acid. Old Man Jackson, however, has too much acid or alkaline in his system due to his sterno use. Peeps, what Hall is saying is that both Old Man Jackson and the baby are at extreme ends of the pH chart. The nurse performs the test and sends the results to Hall. And it's just as he suspected. The baby and the old man have completely opposite blood chemistries. Hall then runs a growth program on the organism to discover how its growth is affected by blood chemistry. And these are the results.
Excellent. The graph's practically straight up and down. That means Andromeda can only exist within a narrow range of pH.
A very narrow range. On either side of the tolerance range, no growth. Nothing, right? It's exterminated.
So here's the deal, peeps. They tell Dutton the organism grows within a narrow range of pH. If the blood's abnormal, the organism can't survive in the body. So they tell Dutton to breathe as fast as he can, throwing himself into respiratory alkalosis. Now, while Dutton is hyperventilating, Stone notices this.
That cage, right in front of you.
It's alive.
The rat's been exposed as long as I have. I exposed it to the cultures before the seal broke.
Precisely. Andromeda's mutated to a non-infectious form.
Yep, you heard right, peeps. The ET organism has mutated to the point where it's no longer contagious. That would kind of mean the threat has been allayed, right? And the movie's over, right? Well, not quite yet. There's a notice of an early degenerative change in a gasket. Hall asks where does the gasket lead, and Stone says to the central core, which connects all the labs. Next we see info flashing across the screen, noticing that all the gaskets are now decomposing. Hall says, okay, who built this joint? Hall says it's the organism, it's the ET organism doing this. And then he tells Hall that there's no substation in this sector. You know what? This is all the way stupid. Number one, you build a facility whose sole purpose is to bioweaponize ET germs and organisms located in outer space. Number one, that's what this facility is supposed to do. And what you do is you build it with some cheap butt gaskets that are now decomposing and has set off the self-destruct, but oh, there is no substation. Even though you got the little key around your neck, my brother, there's no substation in this sector for you to cut this thing off. So just let me get this right in my mind. Crucial labs are situated in a place where there's no substation to turn off a self-destruct if everything goes south. Running, trying to get apparently from where they currently are, where there's no substation, to a place where there is. However, the automated doors are shutting, sealing off the area, thus sealing them in an area where there is no substation. Okay, who built this place? Well, both of them are stuck. Stone says when the detonation happens, there will be thousands of mutations. The organism will spread everywhere. We'll never get rid of it. The voice over the intercom interrupts his little tirade, noticing them that there's only 5 minutes until self-destruct. So here's the deal, peeps. Stone and Hall are sealed where they are. The elevators are locked down and there's no substation on this floor. Stone tells Hall that the only way now to move between the floors is via the central core. Stone tells him the core is accessed through an emergency hatch in the medical lab. I don't even know why they would put something like that in the lab, but okay. Hall accesses the room through the hatch connected to the biosuit. Peeps, y'all remember seeing this before. And he has the nurse cut him out of the suit, and then he goes for the door. Stone tells Hall there's lasers, of course there are, lasers in this core area that are the system's automated defense. But Stone tells him he'll access a computer and warn him when one of the lasers are about to shoot at him so he can get out of the way. Okay, I kid you not, this is kind of like the ending of the movie. At one point, Hall doesn't move quick enough and a laser catches him in the face. In addition to being super painful, it makes him really woozy and disoriented. However, Hall makes his way through the core and onto a floor that has a substation. Hall halts the countdown and subsequent self-destruct, saving the world. As for the town,
now off the coast, moving southwest across the Pacific.
At least there haven't been any reports of bizarre death. We're seeding the clouds above Andromeda with silver iodide. The raindrops will carry the organism into the ocean, and the alkaline reaction from seawater should kill it. There's no guarantee that another so-called biological crisis won't occur again.
What do we do about that?
Precisely, Senator. What do we do?
And there you have it, my people. The movie ends with a question which really isn't a bad ending. For 1971, when this movie came out, it was considered pretty good. The premise, the sci-fi-ness, and the acting made for a very popular story, then movie, for its time, which was a little over 50 years ago. Peeps, I still love this movie. I love it for its sci-fi-ness. I love it for the story in and of itself, but mainly, I love this movie for the acting. The four main actors were great and great together. I'd recommend watching the entire movie if you ever get a chance, because strung together clips just doesn't do it justice. Well, that's all for now, my people. As always, I appreciate you more than you will ever know. Thanks for your support. Feel free to like and to share this. Alright, my people, be sweet to each other, and I'll see you next time.